right. Got my Patriots gear on. I'm ready.
Good, because we are live in a few seconds. There it is. Looks like we are live on a Tuesday night for Talk Time with TJ number 213, Triple T, on January 27, 2026. Welcome to Triple T. My name is TJ Zebel. Call myself a professional problem solver, which I always follow up with, no, I don't know everything. I just have a unique way of asking questions and helping people get to the solutions and the changes they are looking for. And we are live on YouTube, which means I get to say, hi, Mom. Hope everything's going well up in balmy Minnesota. Like I should be talking down here in Dallas, where yesterday it was a white winter wonderland. And I mean, it was white, white, white. Everything was white. And it took me about 5 hours of chopping and shoveling and got my tractor out and literally had to bust the ice cover on the driveway about 8 to 12 inches at a time, chop it so that I could actually scoop it with my tractor to get it out of the way so I could get down to some traction because it was slippery. But we got it going, and the thaw is happening. We got traffic starting to happen here again. Had a semi-truck trailer that right in front of our house, there's a large dip. The road goes down, comes back up, and he got stuck at the bottom. Could not make it back up the hill. Had to get a big tow truck to come tow him up the hill. So welcome to Tales of the What in wintertime in Dallas. While we're on the subject of YouTube, for those of you that are on YouTube, please do me all of the YouTube favors that don't cost you any moolah, just a little bit of time to do clickety-click on the subscribe button, the like button, and ring the bell so you know when we are back on the air. And leave some comments. I would love to hear from you guys. And I also have a website I'd love to have you check out. Give me some feedback. We've been doing some work on it again. And you'll find that at www.thetswb.com, thetallskinnywhiteboy.com. Been that since way before the internet. So if you see any other explanations for TSWB, that is not me. I am the tall, skinny white boy. He is I, and I am him, and it has always been that way. But while you're on the website, you'll find out a few things about me and some of the things that I'm blessed to help people with, like depression, anxiety, phobias, PTSD, grief. I offer corporate coaching. I work with athletes from beginner all the way up to the pro level. All sorts of fun, cool stuff. I just get to help people have better lives, and I really like doing that. I also offer a free 30-minute consultation. So if you're wondering, well, what is it that you really do, and can you help me? It's your easy way to find out. Get a hold of me. We'll schedule a time, and we'll go over some of the stuff that you're up against. And at the end of the 30 minutes, if I feel that we're a good fit and I can help you out, I'll let you know. Also, if I feel that we are not a good fit, I will let you know, and I will do my best to help find one of my colleagues that would be a better fit to make sure that you get the change that you are looking for. Next, I guess we're at time to introduce the tie of the week. Started this on the first episode in 24. And you'll recognize these fine, upstanding characters. Some of my favorites. Look at those guys right there. Which one do you identify with the most? For me, it depends on time of day sometimes. But we like to start off the night's event with I'll give you a quick rundown of how the show works. It's a 2-hour show. First hour, I do my best to get through 3 topics that I've picked out for the week. And then when the second hour starts, things change and it's open mic, open platform. Anybody on the call can bring up a topic or ask a question. And I let the people on the call answer first because I like to learn as well. So if you know anybody that wants to join us, if you're watching on YouTube or watching the recording, please reach out, join us. You don't even have to know how to spell NLP. In fact, it's nice that way because we get different perspectives, we get different questions from people joining in. And that's how that works. Now we're going to move into the other thing we like to start off with. Anybody got anything they would like to share from the last 7 days since we were here? Some good news? Any of the above? Mark, fix my time.
Yeah, I had an incident, or I had a phone call yesterday from this lady that used to run a local counseling clinic. I really can't remember her name. Again, it sounds familiar, but she was looking for a therapist for her boss's son, and she threw me a hell of a compliment. She says, yeah, you have such a great reputation in the area, especially working with angry teenagers. And she said, when my boss asked me if I knew anybody, my name was the first. She doesn't do that anymore. She doesn't run the clinic, but she does work in the healthcare industry, and I was her first choice to give a call to see if I had any openings. So I
How
talked to her.
cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I talked to the boss. She's trying to work out. All I had was one opening, and it would be on Wednesdays, and it's not I'm regular, pretty regular, like every other week, but that's all I had for openings. And she was, like I said, she's trying to work out the scheduling so she can bring her son. So it was good to hear that I have a sterling reputation among my peers.
That
So
is awesome. And it's
didn't
always
know it.
nice when it's outside validation like that.
Yeah, from lady, I really didn't know, much from Eve, you know, but she was a clinic director uh,
Huh?
in a previous life. So it was nice to get that validation, like, wow, okay, well, I guess I've got a rep, a good one.
Yes. Well, I'm
So,
glad you shared that. You should be proud of yourself. That's awesome.
well, you do this long enough, you get a reputation. Hopefully, it's a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I just got a comment. I didn't say hi, Mom. Actually, you guys tuned in a little late. I did say hi, Mom, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Yes, I did. You'll get to go back and watch the replay later. But I don't have a problem going, hi, Mom, love you. Thank you for showing up. Um, Anybody else got anything cool they want to share from the last 7 days? We've had a lot of funky weather going on, so it's always nice to share some good stuff. If not, I guess it's time to get into the topics of the evening. And tonight's topics are the post-holiday, stacking dolls, and AC strips. uh, Sounds kind of funny just talking about it. Anyhow, post-holiday. here we are. Uh, yes, we've got Valentine's Day coming up, but a lot of people just feel like that when you get at the outside of the slam of the holiday hit, where it's Thanksgiving and or Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, bam, 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 and everybody's got to be going out and spending time with each other and all that stuff. And then this time of year kicks in, and usually it's weather like we've been dealing with, and the bills for all of the holiday festivities and gifts start rolling in, along with the heating bill and all the above. And this is the time of year where it's really good to keep in touch with people that I guess are on the outside fringe. See how they're doing. Mental checks, mental or health and wellness checks, things of that nature. Also, especially with the heavy snowstorm, a really good time to be checking in on your neighbors, because a lot of people hurt themselves or worse trying to clean up after a snow dump. They go from sitting and sitting and more sitting, and then holiday festivities and consuming sugar at a rate that they normally don't. And maybe the last party they went to, they brought home something that wasn't a gift, but they got to get to work or they got to do something. They're out shoveling and trying to remove the ice and snow, and their bodies are not used to that type of activity instantaneously. So, little thing to remember, keep checking on them, but also especially the mental health. And especially those that had to go through the holidays for the first time without a loved one. They get all the support, the check-ins and everything during the holidays, and now they've got this quiet time. And like I say, with Valentine's Day, or as I like to call it, Singles Awareness Day, coming up here in a couple weeks, it can be even more trying. And some of the ways that you can check in or try to figure out different activities that maybe you can involve them in. Anybody got any ideas, suggestions on keeping in touch with people like that? Holly.
So this is something that I will say I think my community does a really good job with. Like my mom was assigned to handle the emergency preparedness for our neighborhood for a while. But
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that becomes very obvious is it's great to reach out to people, but it's also important to recognize that you can't be the number one person for everybody.
There.
So we would have, a team of people who were willing to help, and you got to find the team. I mean, that is a step. But, we would be put in pairs, and every pair would have like 6 people in the neighborhood they're supposed to keep an eye on. And it's helpful because you get to know your partner, you get to know the team that you're working with. But it's also helpful because everybody's taken care of, but you're not having to be the only one by yourself caring for every single person who's struggling. And there's no way you can know everybody personally, too. So, anyway, and I mean, we also had things like, so we had like captains, and so we'd all report to somebody who'd report to somebody, and the top person would have a ham radio and would have access to emergency food support. And so there's the mental health aspect where we were supposed to check on them once a month was the rule. if you possibly could. And then the other rule is if somebody needed food or needed to know how to turn their gas off or whatever, you knew who to go to. So that's the other thing I would say too is even if you don't have the skills, know which of your neighbors knows how to turn off gas. Know which of your neighbors is going to be able to help if somebody's fuse
Sure.
box has a problem. So know your resources before you get into the emergency. Know your neighbors before you get into the emergency, and the emergency will always go smoother.
That is such great insights and advice. Absolutely. Coming from a fix-it guy, um, yeah, a lot of people knew that I was the fix-it guy and all of that stuff. But for those that don't think of that until it's too late, um, that's important. The other part that popped up, like we like to say on here, a squirrel came by. And for those of you that are wondering, yes, my squirrels have squirrels who know squirrels who invite squirrels along. And so anything can pop up. But for the people, like a friend of mine is a driver for Meals on Wheels. And that's one way that they can kind of keep an eye on the people that can't get out. You know, at least those people have somebody showing up on the regular, bringing them some food, checking, make sure that they're okay, seeing if they need anything. I think it's the people that are just a step above that may be some of the most vulnerable. They're independent enough, they don't need Meals on Wheels, they live on their own, they don't have family near, and they can fall through the cracks pretty easy. And those are definitely some of the ones that you want to think about. Even if you can't go there yourself, find out if there's somebody that's closer to them that can swing by, check on them, make sure they're okay, things of that nature. And then, like I say, for the people that have lost a special somebody and checking on them, not as, are you mentally okay? But just letting them know that you're available for, I guess I wouldn't call it distractions, but it is kind of that. Sometimes it's almost like adopting those people that have fallen into a situation like that to help them get through until they're stabilized and ready to move forward. Any other insights, ahas, epiphanies on this? Holly.
Sorry, I was going to keep being me again. So another thought I had too that they say consistently is it's great for us to be there for each other, but you never want to be in a place where you're just seeing somebody as your charity project and it's just I'm supposed to take care of them. So first of all, if you could give somebody a purpose, that's always better than just giving somebody time
Yes.
or food or whatever. But also, even if they're in a place where they really do need a lot of help, maybe it's a family member that you're really close to and you're the permanent caregiver or you're, the nurse or whatever. One of the rules is never do something for somebody that they could do for themselves, even if it takes longer for them to do it because you're robbing them of their dignity.
There.
So, if they can tie their shoes, but it takes, 20 minutes, let them tie their shoes. Don't rob them of that dignity.
Yep.
Only help them where they actually ask for it or where they clearly need it, even if it's frustrating.
Great insight. Great insight. Thank you. Mark.
Yeah, it was interesting when Holly was talking about earlier about getting organized. Isn't that the essence of forming a tribe?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, and the efficiency, the breakdown, the interconnection, and it gives the people in the tribe a sense of purpose that you're helping out and things like that. All things that build rapport, are combined into what she was talking about. The other squirrel came by was as professionals, we usually get a lot of referrals in you know, the the month, or so after the holidays are gone because you get those post-holiday blues, sadness, depression, isolation. We had, with Thanksgiving onward, you're getting a ton of social interaction, and then it all kind of goes away January 2nd.
Yeah.
So usually we get a lot of referrals in the in the business during this period of time where people are reaching out and enjoying the after the of course then the credit card bill arrives, and that depresses everybody. But um, now you got to figure out how you're going to pay for the stuff you absolutely needed, positively needed to buy to make the holiday season for yourself and other people. So
Yes.
those are my thoughts.
Great
Post holiday
stuff.
blues.
Yep. Another squirrel dropped by and reminded me this is also, we're getting right into that zone of the New Year's Eve resolution fade out, drop off. I tried it and I failed again. I just can't do this. And of course, the gym rats that are in the gym year round, regardless, well, they're starting to get back into owning their place. If you're one of those, please understand that some of those people that are feeling the drop off are going to be beating themselves up again about not being able to stick to their resolution. And they may just need a few words of encouragement from one of you regulars. You don't know what they're up against. And yes, I know it's nice when all of the New Year's resolution people drop off and you can be back to your core 12 people for the next 10 months. But maybe it'd be nice to have 14 instead of 12. Figure out who you could help or help them in a different direction. Hey, Michael, good to see your face, brother. We're talking about dealing with the post-holiday drop downs and depressions and checking in on people and making sure everybody's doing okay. And
I actually was doing that 2 weeks ago and 3 weeks ago after our first conversation when you brought this up at the gym, because I go at 4:30 in the morning.
uh,
It has gotten bigger, and I have actually pointed out a couple people, hey man, good seeing you, welcome back, that kind of stuff. I go to Cabo for 2 weeks, and I come back and worked out yesterday morning, this morning. It's like, where did everybody go?
yeah,
They're all gone.
yeah, they shrunk their year. Okay, my resolution was go to the gym more. I did 5 more times than I did all of last year. So, anybody else got any other input, ahas, epiphanies they want to share on that before we, Holly?
I just keep jumping in. Another thought I had too is it's just the importance of when you're going to help somebody, the best thing you could do is talk to them to figure out what they actually need before jumping in with help. And they say this is one of the biggest problems we have, especially across countries. That the U.S. likes to just pour money in, but they don't send anybody over to see what the local population actually needs, and sometimes that money actually hurts people instead of helping. Um, but I was just specifically thinking, I've seen a lot of people go through losing their job, getting in financial trouble. I've seen it over and over again, and the pattern that happens is the first thing they worry about is food, so they buy a stockpile of food. And then what happens is their family hears here's the problem and says, "Oh, we're going to buy a bunch of food for you," and they stockpile food. And then the local charities all hear, "Oh, we're going to stockpile food," so they've got 9 months worth of food, but their shelter's at risk, for example. Or maybe they just need somebody to watch their kid for an hour so they can go on a job interview. So the best thing you could possibly do is talk to somebody and actually listen to them, elicit their criteria and values and figure out what is it they need to actually get long-term help instead of just a momentary band-aid that may not even be what they need anyway.
Right. No, great stuff. And you're right. Even like it's interesting when people go through loss of a loved one or something like that. And here's enough flowers to start your own flower business. And then a month later, they don't hear from anybody again. And the month, the 2 month, the 3 month is when they need to hear from people the most. And even if it's just a card, I had somebody I was talking to a couple days back, and they were talking about, you can't even hardly find greeting cards anymore. Everything is just, just send them an email. Well, I've got a Hallmark card studio on my computer. I print my own cards. And you don't have to be a master's in graphic design to use that program. I mean, literally, it's like shopping at the Hallmark store. They got all the categories, they've got all the cards, and you find the one you want, and you can either buy card stock with the envelopes and everything, or you can just buy heavier paper. And they sell envelopes specifically for printer paper folded in half. 8.5 by 11 sheets folded in half. They have envelopes specifically for that. And you can personalize them, you can change them around, you can do stuff if you want to. But it's just another way of reaching out and letting people know that they're not invisible. Anybody else before we change topics? Good stuff. Well, this next one, stacking dolls. And no, I'm not talking about Barbie. Okay. This is, I just had an online conference this weekend that I taught at, and so did wonderful Lenora. She did a presentation there as well. And some great stuff. Especially, I was grateful because the weather would have had me inside anyway, and I would have probably been losing my marbles. So it was good to be online and learning from some of the best of the best. And this stacking dolls or nesting dolls or Russian dolls. Anybody know what I'm talking about? And of course, I don't have them, but they stack inside of each other to the big one. And this presentation was given by a good friend of mine, Kelly von Heidekampf. Yes, her husband is definitely European. But she used this in her pre-talk. And so she would have all of the nesting dolls or the stacking dolls lined up. And she said the little one is the one that, the solid one that doesn't open up. That's the one she talks about last. So she would put that down, but she would pick up the smallest one that comes apart. And she said all of these dolls represent ages of life. And the small one is ages 0 to 10, children, because children absorb experiences and they want to be told that they're okay. And they all want a sense of power and approval and ownership of their knowledge and a sense of security. But all of this stuff is sourced outside of themselves. And it's where the coping mechanisms are based from, basically out of need. And for those of us in our industry, we often say that a vast majority of the personality traits and a lot of the issues that we deal with are put on our hard drive from conception to 5, maybe 7, and possibly up to 10 years old. Because you got your parents, your siblings, the rest of the familiars, and your friends and all of those that are adding to your hard drive, helping you build the foundation of your values and criteria. You know, kids aren't born knowing racism and social bias and hatred and all of that stuff. They're taught that. They absorb that. And I really liked the way that it was put out that children absorb experiences, even if they don't experience it, but they view it or they hear the parents talking about it. I've dealt with enough clients now to realize that kids absorb so much more than what they are told. One example that I heard was a mother who constantly talked extremely highly about her children. They were the best looking, they were the smartest, they were the most amazing, they were all this stuff. But if she were to talk about herself, oh, I'm not that attractive, I'm not that smart, I'm not, and she would constantly talk down about herself. Well, somehow the family got put into, I don't know if it was a magazine interview or something, a neighborhood highlight or something like that. And when they interviewed the kids, and the kids talked about their mom, she was the most beautiful, the most amazing, the most awesome mom ever, and all the above. But when they asked the kids about themselves, no, I'm not sure why we're in this interview. We're not that smart. We're not that attractive. They absorbed the mother's outlook not what she said. And so that's the smallest separating doll. The next one is ages 10 to 20, puberty. Whee! Oh, that fun time. And that's where the massive cognitive identity is formed. And we become more aware that we have our own thoughts, and so do others. We start thinking about our thoughts and realizing that, are people thinking about us? And we're thinking about them, and ay. And then our inner critic is created. Yay! Nothing like our favorite voice in our head, our inner critic. And where did your inner critic get its content from? Anybody want to guess? Want to guess? Where did our inner critic get our content from? Oh yes, our parents, our peers, our teachers, our tribe, our friends, quote unquote. And the teens still need approval, power, and appraisal. Yes, but they don't have much power. So what do? They rebel. I've never known a rebellious teen. Stop laughing, Mom. I know. I love you. And food had a major impact on their outlook, and food changed in importance and meaning in that 10 to 20-year-old. Because what happened in the 0 to 10? Oh, it's your birthday, it's a holiday, it's a celebration. You did what you're supposed to. You did a good job. Here's some sugar. Here's some stuff you shouldn't eat. Here's something that you can only get if you're good. And all sorts of food beliefs and habits get compounded during that 10 to 20-year-old stage. And then the next doll, 20 to 30. Yay. Our striving period, I referred to it as new adulting. Yes, that's where college and bills and choices and proving we can be better adults comes into play, and realizing that adulting is not as much fun as we believed, and it's not at all it's cracked up to be. And it's also when a good majority of coping mechanisms stop working. And that's when people start that step towards ending up in our offices. And it may not happen during the 20 to 30 range, but things are getting solidified. Problems are being realized, and it can be a very challenging part. That's also when a lot of people start producing small humans and realizing that their dumb parents who should have done a better job, maybe were not doing that bad of a job, or maybe the job that they thought their parents should have been doing better isn't quite as easy as they believe it should have been, because Barbie was much easier to take care of than the little one screaming in the other room. And Barbie and Ken didn't have arguments that the neighbors could overhear. Any input, ahas, epiphanies so far on the stuff we've covered? Mark.
Yeah, again, huge topic though, TJ. Great topic. Um, and yeah, that first, um, that first, 0 to 6 years, again, there could be a lot of irrational because we don't have a rational mind until about age 6, and that's when the conscious mind and the subconscious kind of deviate. The conscious mind develops to protect the subconscious, develops judgment, things like that. But at that time, we're very malleable. One story I remember hearing is mom and her best friend are having coffee, and little Sally's playing in the corner. They don't think she's listening, but she is.
Yep.
And they're having a conversation. They're like, yeah, we really didn't plan on having Sally. It was kind of like, it just happened. It was an accident. And little Sally hears that and goes, oh, mommy and daddy really didn't want me.
Yes.
I wasn't wanted. I was a mistake.
Yep.
And again, it can bend little kids in that way, and because they think, that they're somehow unwanted, and that irrational belief can follow them through their lives.
Yeah.
Now, Laura could probably talk more too about the 10 to 20 group, the puberty thing, but a word popped into my head. Squirrel had a whisper for me, and he said 2 words. When you were saying that, I went, body armor.
Yes. Yep.
And that's when we install the coping mechanisms. We get a sense of, again, how to protect ourselves. And, sometimes a lot of people that are overweight, that's body armor that they could develop to protect themselves. And, and you're right when you say the 20 to 30s is like when we finally realize that some of that early programming, that early stuff really ain't working for us anymore. And that's when we go, seek out, hopefully, people in our profession that can help them deal with that and develop some healthier, coping mechanisms, defense mechanisms, but the entire concept is, like I said, of the nesting dolls, again, it's something I knew, but I really didn't think about it in that way. So thank you for bringing up the topic.
Well, thank Kelly, because Kelly, when she was doing this, I was like, wow. And be right with you, Holly, but as soon as you said body armor, one of the squirrels popped in and said, yeah, and what if there's a mouse that snuck into the body armor and that's the one whispering in your ear, your critic, that little one that runs around and goes, Holly.
So one of the things I really like about this technique is I think it's important to remember that with these nesting dolls, you could always take the inner version of the doll, and there are so many other dolls you could easily put this in.
Mhm.
So you are not stuck. They're not a part of you. They're just around you. They're the ones you chose at a certain point. They're the ones you started with. But if at any point you prefer a different color, you prefer a different, slightly different size, you have so many options. You are not stuck with what you started with if it's not serving you.
Yeah.
Another thing that pops into my head, though, one of the things I'm trying to do with all my techniques is take a balanced approach. And so I always like to say, because I think it's very easy with what we do, it's powerful to clear trauma. But, when all you're focusing on is clearing trauma all the time, everywhere you look, you see trauma, 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 trauma. And so one of the things I'm trying to do is take every technique I work with and find the way I can amplify the positives.
Yes.
Find a way I can the beautiful, that sort of thing. So one of the things I was thinking about this too is, have you looked at the nesting dolls for something positive and beautiful? So you can look at, how did I learn love? Well, there was this pure version. And then I learned the importance of listening to people and language. And then I learned the importance of having healthy boundaries, because sometimes, you could look at all the different things you've learned, and you could do that with anything. You could look at, your career, you could look at your skill sets. So you could look at, this is the years where, I was born blank kind of, and I don't necessarily believe in blank slate, but pretend for a minute it's blank slate. And then you could say, and this is the year where I finally was able to go to the bathroom by myself. And this is the year where I was able to feed myself. And oh, now look, I can actually drive myself wherever I need to go. Look at all of those skill sets. One of the things that really stuck in my mind is when you talked about when people reach that phase of having their own kids, and suddenly they reframe and see everything different. Because what you thought was, my mom didn't care about me, you realize as an adult, maybe it's my mom was overwhelmed. Or maybe even more importantly, you realize, no, my mom didn't want me to grow up to be a jerk. My mom didn't want me to grow up still needing my diaper changes,
Yep.
which is why she forced me to learn to, use the bathroom. So I think it is interesting that the outer layer could be the place where you look back at the inner layer. It's a different perspective. When you're on the inside, it's kind of a random analogy, but it came into my head. When you're in the inside, you're seeing, like that solid color. You're not seeing any detail, and it just looks like it's nothing. But when you're on the outside looking in, you see all of the detail, all of the painting, all of whatever's on the doll. So, even though you might be purer and more innocent when you're on the inside, and you want to protect that, you want to preserve that, you want to cherish that, recognize that sometimes it is good to look from the outside and look towards the inside, where you can actually see all the detail of everything that was being created on all those layers.
Yep, exactly. And the stacking dolls that Kelly used were plain wood, undecorated, natural wood, which your approach, you can decorate them however you want. Moving on here so I can get these all in quick. 30 to 40, that's your small self. Wants to keep everything as it has been. Sound familiar? Where the subconscious wants to protect you by making sure you don't change. And the voice, and I was writing so fast, the voice chants that, well, that sounds logical and reasonable. You deserve this, or you deserve your dysfunction, and your dysfunction feels very comfortable. You deserve to be happy. Well, but are you happy? And sometimes they can start being a bit conflicting. And this is where a lot of people start wondering, am I really happy? Or am I fooling myself into believing this? I also think this is the comfort zone. I'm in my 30s. This is the hand I'm dealt. And I'm going to have to make it work. Blah, blah, blah. And then that was the last of those. The largest doll, the one that all these fit in, that's your authority doll. And it can start at any age. This is when you think there has to be a better way. The rest of the parts come along for the ride, but cannot take you where you want to go. What choice can I change to stop doing what isn't working? Again, that's the authority doll, the outer casing, the biggest doll, the one that all of these are stored in, the authority doll. And back to the smallest doll, the one that doesn't come apart, that's the you before you became whatever you are. That's before you had a body, whether you call that the spirit, the essence. We come in knowing who we are, and then we forget. That's the inner core. Again, you could call it your spirit, your higher self, your inner person who you are, but that's the one at the very inside of the stacking dolls. Any ahas, epiphanies, comments on Guillermo? We can't hear you. I don't know if you're talking or not, or if you just hit that to agree, but you can, if you want to comment anytime, Guillermo, you can come in at any time.
Can you hear me there?
There we are.
Sorry. Yeah. So it's interesting that you keep talking about these and then lately I start reframing myself with my kids, and you touch a point that is really important. I'm trying to reframe myself like what is being happening in my life, and then how can I improve myself to trying to do a better life for them. And one of the things I'm trying to, and I've been talking with my ex-wife, and then it says, okay, now we need to make sure that what we're talking in front of them is something positive. And then even when they make mistakes, we got to encourage them to do better and better. But sometimes I hear my kids saying some words that they are not in our vocabulary. And it was interesting because I says, where do you hear those words? And then I found out those words, they coming from the grandma. And words that is, I hate this, I hate that. So, and then I got to go with the little one and explain to him, and it says, you don't need to use these words. But then he was saying, well, grandma used it. And it says, well, we need to understand why grandma used those words, because maybe she's in a pain or she's in a different stage. But you don't need to use that for reference and your life. So it's really interesting that also when you're growing, what people is around you, so they can also implant thoughts and beliefs that maybe those are not the ones that you want for them when now you learning all these experiences, if you know what I mean.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that, because a lot of the reframing that I have to do with clients goes back to stuff like that, where when I ask them to replay the recording that they made, and events and words come up, it's interesting that a lot of my clients had completely consciously forgot that event, but subconsciously it was there and it was playing with distinct volume. And so I think if we take the stacking dolls concept and we look at, even like when we do regression, we're simply unstacking the dolls and seeing what's written on each stage that's in there. And sometimes the writing or the belief system or the concept or the staging can be on the exterior of the doll, or sometimes we have to actually open the doll up and look at the interior of the doll to see what's hidden on the inside of that particular doll, of that particular stage. Any other comments, epiphanies before we reach the top of the hour? Or should I throw one more item at you and finish all three topics in a quick hurry? Lenora, please.
I'm sorry. I thought I was on mute, so I apologize if you guys were hearing background noise.
No, there was no background noise.
Okay, good. Guillermo, I just wanted to say and I think especially in this amazing world where we get to try so many different things, we can find ourselves trying, and we never recognize when we succeed. And to recognize that as you and your ex, as you mentioned, you were doing all these things to help your children and help yourself, which is an amazing thing. And I'm fully cheering for you in that. Recognize that you are succeeding. So each night, recognize if this was the intention for the day, recognize that you succeeded in what you were offering in that situation. It doesn't have to be this long-term thing of like, oh, when my children are, 18 or 20 or da. Recognize each day that you are succeeding with the intention, with the reframing, with the lessons and the insights that you're getting, and with the evolution of your own self and your own thought process and your own downloads and metaphors that come through and your own situations that come up, especially at work with leadership, but also with your kids. Notice that you are succeeding. You're in it.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, Lenora. Remembering what I said, also, Guillermo, that kids absorb the intention. So being authentic inside and outside with those feelings is going to be far more important than the words that you say to them. Mark.
Yeah, I was just thinking, again, the whole metaphor of the stacking dolls is also analogous to what we do a lot of times, is peeling back the layers of the onion.
Yeah.
And the to get to wherever the again, and yeah, we have to do the best we can, as far as parenting. If we don't learn a better way, we tend to follow the way we were parented. So those are a couple of thoughts that popped in. But yeah, the idea of what we do is a lot of times peeling back the layers, to find the so that we can help people heal and help people grow. And like I said, in parenting is the toughest job you'll ever love.
Yeah. Yep. And Michael put a great comment in as well, that this includes even in the womb. I get a number of clients that when we regress, they're going back to before they were born. They're in their mother's womb and they overheard something, and that was recorded as well. And I'm sure there's somebody out there, yeah. No, it's happened enough times, and enough stories have come out to where they went back to their mother, who was still alive, and said, I remembered this event, or did this event really happen? And the mother's like, who told you that? Where did you hear that? So it's true? Yes, but where did you hear that? It was recorded. not to put any pressure on moms or stuff out there. It just is what it is. If you are one of the people that had these flashbacks or something, you're hearing things and you're thinking that you're probably a tad Looney Tune, you're not. We've got enough accurate accounts of this to prove that it is not the Looney Tune woo-woo that some would want to believe it is. But that brings us all the way up to the top of the hour. Like I've said many times, if you don't believe in time distortion, do a plank, notice how long a minute is, and then come here and notice how quickly an hour can go by. And now it's time to start our second hour to see how fast that one goes. And if you're just tuning in for the first time or watching the recording for the first time and you have no idea what's going on here at Triple T, the second hour is a change up. It's open mic, open platform. Anybody on the call can bring up a question or a topic, and I let all the people on the call answer first because I like to learn as well. And if after everybody has answered, I feel like I still got a little bit to add, that's when I toss in my two centavos. So with that introduction, and we have plenty of veterans on here of Triple T, you all should know I'm going to ask for who has their first topic or question of the evening. Michael.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot, TJ. This is actually out of the ordinary. I was here the whole time I've been listening, and I think we're in a neat rabbit hole. And when you, as a hypnotherapist, regress somebody, what is the neatest or the most unusual or craziest story that you can share with us about something that may have happened or something that one of your clients may have felt they experienced?
He's going through like a Rolodex
I know.
stories right now.
Literally going.
Was it the Dewey Decimal System that just like came sliding out of the library?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I can't talk about that one.
Or
Yeah,
catalogs.
there's that one. And
As long as you don't talk names, or anything that, there's things that you can
yeah,
allude to.
and for those of you that are on the call that have done this type of work, you're up next, so get ready. I tell you, first off, you guys got to understand, I did not go looking for this profession. I literally fell into it by what us humans would call accident, and what is most likely my higher self going, and the next chapter is through the door to the right. And so that being said, I wasn't looking for validation to this stuff. In fact, a good portion of it, when I first heard it, I was like, yeah, whatever. And then I started doing it, and I was like, okay. And one of the things I've been blessed at being quite good at is regression. And when I first started thinking, well, yeah, it's easy, you just regress to the memory, which means any time from when you were born up until today. And not so much. So far, if I remember right, the most lifetimes was 101. And I'm sure that there's a vast majority of you out there just went, not. 101 lifetimes? What, they were born before the earth existed? Until I had to point out that not all lifetimes are 80, 90, 100 years old. You know, some of them don't even get born. They may just be like, I'm going to give this little thing a shot. And so they give it a shot and they're like, you know what? I think I've had enough. Peace out. And the mother has to sit there and deal with a miscarriage or a stillborn or something and try and deal with that. And it could be that the mother arranged it so that she could understand what that feels like. And I'm not saying she was like, dear God, please give me this experience so I can understand it. We know that life doesn't work that way. But when I started working with clients and the more of these things popped up, you want to talk about empathy and understanding and having a hard time judging what people are going through. I mean, that stuff like that will humble you. And so when that person went back 101 lifetimes and told me what they were going through and where this whole program that they were dealing with started and how many lifetimes it got handed off like a bad fruitcake, you start going, okay. But then I also got to be part of cleaning that up, ending that legacy, and knowing that it wasn't going to be handed forward anymore. So, yeah, this profession can be very challenging, very what, but also extremely rewarding.
Well, the neat thing, this kind of leads into soul contracts, which you're talking about. And for anyone who's watching this who may have doubts or anything like that, which is okay, we appreciate everybody. But one thing that I can promise everybody, and you can do the same, is we're energy. And there is no start or stop to energy. And scientists, whatever they may be or may not be, there is no start or stop to energy. So right on, man. Very cool.
Yeah. I've witnessed some crazy stuff. I've done regression in sessions going down the freeway at 70 miles an hour. When looking for it, wasn't like, this would be a really good time to help somebody out with some stuff, but just like Dr. David Snyder said it extremely well, anytime, anywhere, for any reason. And I've done basically an exorcism over the phone. That was 2.5 hours on the phone of hearing voices coming out of a person that I knew, that I know there is no way I could ever get them to reproduce those voices.
Wow.
It's not possible. And got done with that, and I got off the phone, and I'm like, I could use a drink right now. I'm just like, I'm pretty sure, yes, I'm awake. I almost wished that I would have woke up and went, that was a trip, but no, I was awake, and that was a trip. So, yeah, this profession also isn't for the faint of heart, depending on how deep you want to get. So, who else has some stories that tales from the crypt or whatever you want to call them? Really? I'm the only one? Mark, you got to have a couple that were like, wow.
Well, Tales from the Crypt, huh? And
Oh, that TV show.
and I'm the crypt keeper.
No, you're just a cute little panda.
Well, I did have one client, and she was quite. She was a larger woman, and I met her in a public place with her one of her helpers, and she left us alone. And this woman had a deck of cards, and she would constantly play with the cards, and all the different, the cards would, have different personalities. It was a result of trauma. I think her psyche had been shattered like a piece of mirrored glass, and all the different personalities developed, individually to help her cope, and she was like, it would come out that it just emerge. It was almost like a symbol would be like, yeah, Queen of Hearts they hate you. She's gonna kill you, and, the first time I met her, we were in a public place having a soda or whatever, and I knew about her history with the cards, and I asked her a question that challenged her reality. And I said, do you think there might ever be a time where you might want to, just get rid of the cards? And she thought I was telling her to get rid of the cards. And her face lost it became totally blunted, okay? And from her voice she started speaking in a deep male voice. And she said, that wouldn't be a very good idea. And I was totally friends. I said, no. I said, I said, could you imagine a time where you might be ready to get rid of them? And yeah, that was a long-term case that lasted years. I was able to reintegrate the different shattered shards of her personality so she could accept herself as one person. But that first meeting was a little freaky, and she'd, but yeah, like I said, it took years to get her to reintegrate to have her recognize those are all things she did to survive. She went, when the bad stuff was happening, she'd go and hide in one of those little shards of personality.
Yep.
Protect herself. But yeah, it was very gratifying to see her reintegrate that personality after so many years working with her. But yeah, that first meeting was okay. We have just entered the twilight zone,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess that would be one of my tales from the crypt.
Makes you look at those movies and go, maybe it was a documentary.
Yeah. When Fran comes on, we got to ask her as well.
Yeah. Holly.
So I've got a few that are coming to mind. I'm trying to decide how much I should share on each one, but I think I've got a good idea. So first of all, I think one of the weirdest things is most of my most unusual regressions have all occurred when I wasn't doing a regression technique. So I don't know how this works for the rest of you, but when I work with somebody who's been in the same training I've been in, the session goes pretty much according to script. Oh, I'm doing magic frame. This is how magic frame works, and it goes that way. But as soon as I work with somebody who hasn't had the training, I have yet to have a single technique go the way I thought it was going to go. So I'll be
Up
doing
first,
magic
left
frame,
turn.
and the next thing I know, they've regressed or they've, like their guardian angel has shown up and takes them on a tour of their, future or, all these really cool things.
Yeah,
Um,
way cool.
but just a few stories. So one is the most powerful regression I think I ever did is not something that was big and powerful. It seems very benign, but it was just basically somebody had realized that their feeling of like abandonment went back to a time when their mom set them down to go use the bathroom. And it's like, oh, like we've got these huge things, but no, that was just so powerful because they realized, oh, mom wasn't abandoning me. She was just going to the bathroom. That's a normal thing. Like that reframe and being able to see that was so powerful for them.
Yeah.
But if you want some of my weirder ones, like first of all, I don't even know. Before all this, I don't know if I believed in past lives. I'm starting to get to where I do, but it doesn't matter if they're real or if they're, symbolic. They're still real to our subconscious for either way. But yeah, I've had people spontaneously regress back into old versions of themselves, but I've also had people spontaneously regress to non-humanoid creatures that they've been, which has always been interesting. I've had some of them regress to the future, which is also very interesting. Sometimes it might be another planet. I've also had people, I'll say, go back to the source of whatever this is, and they float back to it, and they end up in a metaphorical universe. Because I guess their subconscious mind can't face what really was going on or whatever. And so, maybe it's not this specifically, but it might be something like, oh, I'm in a Mario game because I love Mario, and this is how I'm going to understand what happened. So, I mean, regression, you can't ever predict what's going to happen next. Just when you think you've seen it all, you're going to see something else. And then I also managed to spontaneously regress myself. So I was having a panic attack. And the next thing I knew, I was in this past life and I was watching this young girl, like 980, who was forced into a marriage and she was only 14 years old. And, it's just really interesting because, like, once again, at the time I was not believing in past lives. And so it's like, I don't even believe in this. I'm not even being in a formal trance. All I had was a panic attack that threw me back there. But it was there and it was still going to the story. So yeah, I find regression absolutely fascinating and completely unpredictable.
But isn't it cool now that you have the tools that you were
Oh,
able
it's
to
so cool.
be aware of, like when you regressed yourself and how you looked at the situation, you're like, okay, and how can I handle this and where can I learn or glean from it? That is so cool. Love that.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing.
And Holly was so right. You get to I don't know I think for me, I've been through so much in my life that it takes a lot to shock and awe me anymore. And so luckily now that I'm in this, people come up and I've got clients describing stuff and I'm like, okay, we can roll with that. But yeah, there have been plenty of times I had one client that I was working with, they were sitting in a chair and all of a sudden they regressed and went completely rigid and slid right off the chair onto the floor.
Wow.
And they're sitting there having their little freak out session. And one thing I know from training is you can't touch them at that moment because that's a hand coming out of the darkness. And so I just made sure that they were okay and like, all right. Brought them through it, brought them out of it, and they were like, how did I end up on the floor? And I said, well, you just kind of decided that's where you wanted to be. Okay.
Good answer.
You're fine.
You didn't hit your head. Nothing like that. There's no video camera.
Yeah, they just straight down.
Trance
Wow.
logic.
Yeah. that happened. Okay, next. So I don't challenge the universe anymore. I'm like, oh, I think I've seen enough. And about the time I say that, the universe is like, next.
Now, how about on your virtual work? If something like that happens, that's kind of a tougher situation. Would you agree or no?
Same. That's why I want to have a camera. I don't do regression when it's just on the phone unless it accidentally happens when I'm talking to somebody, which it has.
Yes.
But I want a camera on so that I can watch for micro expressions, ab reactions, things of that nature. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Amazing.
And I've had a few sessions go 3-4 hours, 5 hours one time because they dropped into the abyss. And it was a scary place. And so I tell my clients if we've got an appointment and I don't show up, it's not because I'm on YouTube watching funny cat videos. I am in battle with somebody trying to get them back to a safe place, and I will do the exact same thing for you. Because I will not cut a session short because of the clock. If we're in, and we're gonna stay in until we get things cleaned up, get them back to a stable running position. Mark.
And I have to say, I appreciate that about you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Mark.
be careful what you ask for because the universe is always listening.
Uh-huh.
When I was in one of Dr. David's uh, seminars out in San Diego, he was talking about using spinning to cure a broken heart, and I went, "Oh, I want one of those." Sure enough, within a month, this young man called me. He'd been dumped by his fiance, and I was able to spin it out, right then and there. I was like, so yeah, I gotta be really careful sometimes what I wish for because the universe is listening. And if my caseload is dropping, I'll send out an intent, and all of a sudden I get 6 calls, and it's like, whoa, stop, that's enough, please.
Yes.
Cut it there.
Oh.
And again, that
How did the broken heart turn out? Because when you do the spinning technique, I mean, that's big.
yeah,
Energy.
well, he yeah, like I said, he stayed with me for quite a few years. He had basically learned all I had to teach. He had learned the 3 magic questions and the echo technique, and he was able to um, like I said, he was a good student, and he hooked up with this fabulously beautiful young woman, and he had um, because of the echo technique, for the first few weeks, she kept telling her friends, "Oh my God, he gets me. He gets where I'm coming from," which is something women rarely say about men. So when they first, and then after about 3 or 4 weeks dating, she finally introduced him to all her friends. And you know what they told him? They said to him, "We didn't think you were real. We thought she was making you up because no guy gets us."
Yes.
So, the power of like I said, the values and criteria, the three magic questions, and the echo technique, and yeah, he was doing quite well when he went off to fly by him, on his own. So I wish him well, but he had learned, uh, so much more about, again, this magical, mysterious place that we think we know everything about, but we really don't. We always get surprised. So, but yeah, again, be careful what you ask for, or
Well,
what you ask for, because as soon as you do, it's out there. So,
with all the trainings I did with David and the amount of abreactions that would happen at his trainings, and he couldn't stop to deal with the abreactions because all the students were expecting training. So guess who got to deal and go clean up the abreactions? I got really good at dealing with abreactions and cleaning up messes and stuff like that. So lots of practice. All right. Anybody else?
thrown in the deep end, weren't you?
Oh, yeah. It's like, what do you mean you don't know how to swim? There's a lake right here. You're doing great. Keep your head above the water, though. So, anybody else got a new question, topic? Holly.
Well, speaking of regressions, I'm just curious if you were in a situation where, say, you rescued a genie and the genie said, in order to repay you for what you just did, I'm going to let you take one lesson that you can install in 12-year-old you. You can go back in time and just install it. What would be on your short list of lessons you would like to send back to 12-year-old you?
Okay, you guys answer first. What lesson would you send back to 12-year-old you?
There's lots of little things like that. I'm not gonna go there though right now.
Oh,
Well, no, because like you think about like our dating situations, and then how young men were intimidated by women, and we wouldn't necessarily have to be intimidated by women if we knew what we know. We could also go other routes with that as well. So, but I think that's a great question.
Mark.
Yeah, again, what popped into my head was just listen to your dad a little bit more. Um, to because he's lived a long life, a hard life, and he had some wisdom to pass along, and about life, about things, and I tended to discount a lot of what he said at the time and didn't really pay attention. But the life lesson would be, you know, um, you know, he's a teacher too, and there's a lot of things he could have taught me, and that I discounted, my time with him, what little there was. So I would be like, cherish that, even though I didn't really, I feared him, but I didn't use him as a teacher, and he had stuff to pass on because he had seen some stuff, the Depression, World War II. He had, uh, he had some stuff, and I just didn't listen at the time. So that would be the life lesson that everybody can be your teacher, and like I said, when I do this, I learn I get as much as I give sometimes. So
Yes,
we're
right.
all each other's teachers, so.
Cool. Good answer. Who else? Greg, if you could go back to your 12-year-old self, what lesson would you offer?
Well,
Out of the millions that you've learned.
yeah. Well, one is like financial, like buy Amazon stock, right? Just one like
and
that,
Bitcoin.
just to secure
Yeah,
my.
your 12-year-old would be like, Amazon, you want me to buy trees?
I was psychic back then when I was 12. Um, gosh. Um, boy, there are many things, but
Well, while you're thinking, Michael, what's yours?
This Michael?
Yep.
Bitcoin, Amazon, Apple, Atari. Hello. Yeah, they're fantastic. That's a great thing to do.
So that would be your lesson that you would send back.
No, my lesson would be because I look back at some of my dating habits as a young man, and I would definitely talk to my younger self and make different choices.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm happy with where I'm at and how everything's turned out. And I put in the work and everything works out for the best. And I gotta thank God for unanswered prayers.
Yeah, I know that one quite well. First thing that popped in my head, I would go back and teach my younger self the trifecta.
yep.
That would be because what I could potentially accomplish with much better communication skills. That's what popped in my head. And yes, a couple of tips on some investments, young man. You won't know why you want to buy an Apple, but when it becomes a stock, buy it.
Yeah, man.
Even if you have to sell your car. My car? Why would I want to sell my car? Because after a couple of years, you'll be able to buy 10 more cars, the same car, better cars. And then after 20 years, you'll be able to buy any car you want. So, did you come up with one yet, Greg?
I was thinking that it would be something like trust myself that I will, in not too long a period of time, find who I am. I generally, as a kid, I had a sense of, it was trust from living in a secure environment, right? I had my family unit. I had a younger brother or an older brother. I had friends. It was a small community and knew everybody. So I felt unconsciously safe, right? Like I was protected. I could go anywhere, anytime, and I was safe. I was protected. Um, but then, at the early teens, mid-teens, when you start working and being a responsible adult, and new choices are made, right? New experiences, a lot of confusion, and not necessarily knowing what to do sometimes. But I think it would be to trust that you're really always on the right path, and there's no better choice than what you're able to choose right now, and you will be guided. Oops. You'll be guided and protected some more, and you'll find yourself. You'll find your place in the world. Your talents and abilities will be exposed by always embracing opportunities that are presented, which I did to a large extent. Like you, TJ. I mean, you had a million jobs, right? It's like every time somebody asked me, "Would you want to do this? Would you want to try that?" And I'd get that hollow feeling in my belly. Oh God, that fear, and I would do it anyway. I somehow knew that it was necessary for my growth. So, um, yeah, that's it. Just know that you're going to find yourself, and it's going to be a good thing.
Great answer.
Hmm.
How about you, Miss Lenora? If you could go back to your 12-year-old self, what lesson would you bestow upon that young lady?
My dears, we only have 25 minutes. We don't have 25 days.
One lesson.
Mhm.
It'd be
The
something like, sit down, let me hear your ears. We're gonna need some time. Which is hysterical because I actually had a memory come up that I was working through last night from when I was growing up, and I'm telling you guys, like I was 8, 6, 7, 8, kind of like and it was all happening in the one of the houses that I had spent a lot of time in. So yeah, very interesting.
TJ said he would take as long as it takes, Lenora.
But and you know what? I'm quite sure that in his Rolodex of like stories, this like long card catalog came out of his brain, and he's like, "Oh shit, that was a lot of time I spent with her," because there was a number of times that I was probably completely in the fetal position in the front seat of my car. So we've survived. We've lived to tell the tale.
Exactly.
I'm very grateful that the man probably has the bladder of a water buffalo. So,
I wasn't the only one on the call, so apparently,
but and we're still impressed that I did not need Depends at any point in all the hours that we spent.
uh-huh. And here we are, and you're all the better for it.
Thankfully, thank you for doing what you do.
Who else has a lesson they can share? Holly, what would you go back and share with your 12-year-old self?
Oh, geez, turn it around on me, why don't you? I see how it is.
You knew that was coming.
I think the biggest, there's kind of two that are competing for first place. One would be that it's okay to have boundaries, and not only okay, it's preferable to have boundaries.
Yes.
Um, the other one is it's also okay to be different, and that's going to ultimately end up being a good thing, not a bad thing.
Great answers. And I don't know if Mike or Guillermo have the ability to chime in, but we'd love to hear your answers as well.
I think it would be one of the abilities to say no. You know,
Huh? No. I have no
it's
idea.
Latin America culture is a lot of pleasing others instead put yourself in the first place. So going to this, it will be like we need to teach them, or I will teach myself to say no to many things.
Yep. Yeah, it's saying no is not always a bad thing. In fact, it's self-preservation is very important. And discernment is right there with being able to say no. How about you, Mike?
Well, I would probably say that it is not your fault. Um, you are in an environment that is unhealthy, and um, there will be a day that you meet a wonderful tribe that will educate you in ways of um, expanding your horizons and making life better. So wait for that time; it'll come.
Well, when that tribe shows up, you let us know, because until then, we love you right here. And Fran joined in just in time. Fran, guess what the question of the day is, and you get it sprung on without any insights, ahas, or cheating anybody else's answers. The question is, if you could go back in time to your 12-year-old self, what lesson would you give him?
Lighten up, have fun, don't worry.
Amen.
See? Just like that. Brilliant right off the top.
We need to ask Fran about the crypt as well.
Go ahead, you ask her.
So, Fran, given your history, what is the most unique or strangest story that you can share about working with somebody without revealing anything that would be revealing? You know what I'm saying?
Without the client revealing anything.
Exact. Without you revealing anything that would be revealing to a client.
We
So like,
called it, we termed it Tales from the Crypt. And since you've learned stuff like regression or things of that nature, what are some of the top experiences you've had with clients where you're just like, well, that just happened?
I think using the content-free hypnosis, as in emotional detox, has been one of my biggest eye-openers. I've got a whole load that are coming up. My biggest surprise was with somebody who came to me with anxiety, and turned out that she'd got such a massive trauma that her father had committed suicide, and I think she found him.
Oh.
And, she was worried that she was anxious. And I didn't discover that until we were already in the session. So once you're in there, you don't turn back. Oh goodness, I'm flipping stuff from everywhere. One of the other biggest non-revealing sessions I've done was with me being female and with a guy who'd had sexual abuse when he was young. And we managed to do it with code words. And that was, I felt really privileged that he could trust me even that much. And he felt okay to do that because he didn't have to go into the story.
Yes.
That's not answered your question, but
well, like TJ, he had a client who went stiff and slipped out of the chair. Holly was dealing with a client who actually had abandonment issues. And it turned out that she was left on a step while her mom went to the bathroom. It wasn't abandoned. It was just, I got to go to the bathroom. And so, I mean, crazy things like that. And we were talking about past life regressions as well. So like a crazy story as far as that goes, like TJ talked about one of his clients who had 109 lives.
101.
101 lives.
Yeah. Like.
Yep.
Yeah. See, when you've been in the industry for a while, you're just like, and what happened?
Yeah.
And people who aren't around the industry are like, really? Like, really? For real?
I think the most fascinating thing I find about past life regression is if there are other characters in the story or the memory or whatever it is. I just treat it as metaphor. I don't care if it's real or not. It's what they need at the time. But being able to look into the other people's eyes of the other players in what's going on, particularly the players that are causing the problems. If in regression you actually look in trance into their eyes, you can recognize if they're present in your current life. Yep. And consequently, if you change the past life, because I do a rewrite of the story. That's my method of doing it. I don't just follow the story. We follow it once and then we go back and we rewrite it. But if you look deep into the eyes of the other people in the story and notice how that might or might not relate to what's going on in your life this time around with the same people, you've got a lot of power to change the story there, which changes your relationship here. And that's fascinating. I love, love, love that. That's possibly answered your question.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all the stuff that we were talking about when the question got brought up. And actually, Michael asked me directly to start off the second hour. So DJ, tell me about this stuff. And then he goes, and then when Fran comes on, we're going to ask her. Okay, well, here she is.
And my best life lesson is the worst shit gives you the best results. If you can go through the worst stuff, the worst events of your life give you the biggest gifts. You know, you seldom have a problem that doesn't carry a gift in its hands, even though you can't see it at the time and it's horrible at the time. They're your biggest gifts in life and your biggest strengths. It's just you need a bit of time perspective. And TJ, with his time manipulation, can actually move people out of where they're in the middle of it to where they're looking back on it really well.
Thank you. Well, that leaves us with 14 minis for another question or topic. Fran, did you have one that you want to bring up?
Well, it's to do with people who say they really want to change. They're bored with their lives and they find it so hard to change. And I think it's necessary to dive underneath what's the resistance and why, and all the self-esteem issues and the allowed to issues that they've placed upon themselves, and how to lift the not allowed to enjoy your life. That's where I want. How do you lift your clients' belief they're not allowed to enjoy their life?
Great question.
I'm going to throw Mark under the bus here because Mark actually talked about a story with he had a lady who had personality issues as far as they were related to a deck of cards. And he went through each one of those directly, uncovered it, and brought her back to where she could accept herself. So pretty amazing.
Thank you.
So Mark, how would you help Fran on this?
Well, again, it would, again, that took years to accomplish. Again, the individual mentioned is gone now, so I could talk about her freely. But, I would say, we're not born, what is boredom? There's a whole thing about being in the flow. And when you're out of the flow, boredom is your mind's way of telling you need a new challenge. We first try to achieve anything. You've got, you've got high anxiety and low knowledge, and then when those two come together, you're right in the flow. And then when you get out of the flow, it's like a circle, and then when you leave that, there's a period of boredom, but that's just your mind's way of telling you that you need a new challenge. So you got to go back, and work through allowing them to have a new challenge, and like I said, we were born full of joy, we were born fearless and relentless, because otherwise we never learned to walk. How many times did we face plant when we were learning to walk? So we were fearless and we were relentless. And those kind of come wired with the system, right out of the gate. So get them to embrace, to go all the way back and embrace that wonderful little child at the core of the nesting dolls, the Russian dolls that TJ was talking about earlier, because that's where we started. That's where we began. If somebody is bored with their life, well, you gotta open up that door to the fact that we live in a magical, mysterious world where not everything's figured out, where not everything, fits into, science and medicine. And, again, life is full of daily miracles, and we are just wise enough to repeat them. So that's how I would inspire them, friend.
Thank you so much. That is beautiful. And I've just come across another question that's a real big thinker, I think.
Hold on just one quick second.
Yep.
To save time, and we're going to get right to your question. When you get a chance, watch the recording of this and pay attention to the stacking dolls. That'll help you big time with that as well, but I didn't want to go through all of it if we can fit another question in. So what was your question, please?
Well, this may well relate to the stacking dolls as well. It's clients with hidden memories that they just won't go there. Their unconscious mind is really protecting whatever happened in their childhood. And consciously, the client was saying, yes, I'm willing to go there, but unconsciously, there's definitely resistance. So I'm a little bit, I want to treat it delicately so that, it's not going to suddenly bring up too much to deal with. And I think it should be possible, especially with content-free hypnosis, to actually deal with that problem without going into it. Any comments, thoughts, experiences with other people with hidden memories?
Yep. Holly.
So first of all, with my pre-talk, one of the first things I do is I say, I am here to hold space. And if your subconscious mind needs to be heard, I'm here to listen. And if your subconscious mind needs privacy, I'm here to honor that as well. And whether it chooses to tell you or tell me, that's up to it. But one of the things I will say too is it's all about honoring the subconscious mind and building trust with the subconscious mind. And you absolutely could do content free. Once again, in my pre-doc, I've already put it up there. If you don't want to talk about it, we could just clear it. But the other thing you need to make sure is it safe to clear it yet? Because if the subconscious mind isn't ready, work on something else, and it will appreciate you honoring that it wasn't ready, because that really does matter. And then this just kind of crosses back into your other question a little bit, but some of the sources of why it may not be ready yet, is this theirs or is it somebody else's? Maybe it's mom passed away and this mattered to her and I feel like I'm betraying her if I heal this. Or is it logical levels of belief? Is this part of my identity instead of something that I just have or something that I just do? And I need to drop that logical level of belief because I don't want to lose my identity, so I can't clear it till I drop it. A lot of it's going to be, hey, I actually do need to be heard, but I don't know you well enough to trust if you're going to judge me. So I'm going to test you with 5 other things. And then once I've built up the trust and I know you respect me, then I'll be ready to share this with you. Also, don't forget safety lessons could be a huge part of everything. And so the subconscious mind needs to know, we're not going to just erase this and erase the safety lessons as well. We're going to give you a way to download all of those safety lessons and store them in a way that they will be active or even updated possibly, but what is right for you. So yes, the importance, like I said, all of this under the umbrella of always honor what the subconscious mind wants to do because it knows what it needs, what it wants, and that's where you're building the trust.
Great answer.
Yeah.
Anybody else got another answer?
I think Holly's covered most of it. Well and truly.
One that I was going to put in, I've often used the, I labeled it horseshoe of disassociation. So you'll have the person facing the event, the memory, and then you have them disassociate from that so they see that person. Then the third person is sideways. They are in the middle. There's another one, and then there's the person you're talking to. And they're actually shoulder to shoulder with the person that is facing the event. But they're disassociated 5 times. And they can choose to either grapevine the information until they're comfortable enough to just look at each other and share the information. And then they can decide a source, a deal of action, and then you can collapse it all into the person in front of you. So it's one way to give them enough protection for whatever comes up.
Really good, really good. And, you know, if you're doing sort of that sort of
Squirrel!
a process, sorry, too many squirrels. You know, that's almost a sort of other way of doing fast phobia. So maybe other similar sort of processes could work. And I've forgotten what I was thinking of, what might work as well, because the squirrel ran in. But yes, you know, when you're doing that sort of work in trance with the unknown, yes, it would work just as well as with the known, wouldn't it?
Yes, and the nice thing is when you have that many tools in the toolbox, trust that the right one, you'll just reach out and the right one shows up in your hand. I've had it more times than I can say where I start going into using a protocol, a tool, without even really selecting it. It just, I'm like, whoop. And they're like, oh yeah, that's what I needed to hear. You're like, all right, cool. Lenora, you had your hand up for a bit, or?
I was just going to see what level of safety they felt in their body. Also, did it feel safe to reveal this at this time? I know people had mentioned some beautiful things, which are absolutely helpful. Also recognizing that in uncovering this, they can still feel safe in your presence, but also safe within them because you are holding the frequency of it.
Great answer. And Mark, for the final.
Well, I'm the, you know, as far as hypnosis goes, I'm the youngest fairy godmother here. So, I would, when I do trauma work, I usually use, you know, safe space, and then I'm within the safe space, I do timeline therapy. And when I'm confronting a dark area on someone's timeline as we go back and forth along the timeline, you know, a lot of times I don't have to know what it is. Like I said, I don't have to have intimate knowledge. Basically, you know, when you do timeline and you land in that dark area where that little, whatever, in this case, say, little girl is crying, you know, with tears of shame and rage and sadness. And, you know, you have the person land in front of that person and tell them it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. I will always be with you, you know, and that, you know, take them into your arms, and then they melt into you because they feel safe again. And when you elevate above the timeline, have them notice, you know, in trance, that dark area is starting to glow with the wonderful color of the rest of their timeline. I don't have to know what it is, Fran, to make it go away. They know what it is. You give them the tool. Like I said, we're really good at recording trauma and recalling trauma, but we've never been taught how to let go of trauma. And when the subconscious learns that, it's a great gift, you know. But from my point of view, I don't need to know what the trauma is to help the person let it go. And when they do, they usually are crying, but they're leaking in trance. At the same time, we've taught them something very powerful. Like I said, we don't have to know what the secrets that they've buried, and hold that door closed so firmly. All we got to do is teach them how to let go of it, and like I said, we're not trained in that. We're not, as human beings, like I said, we don't arrive with that information. We know how to record it, we know how to recall it, we know how to have it triggered, but we don't know how to let it go unless we're taught. So I'll leave it at that.
Great answer. That's why I call it non-disclosure therapy.
Yep.
And that brought us right up to the top of the hour. Like always, it's amazing. Time Distortion Deluxe happens right here every Tuesday night because anybody who's ever done a plank for a minute knows it feels like an hour. We get on here and 2 hours, and it's gone. So I want to thank you guys so much for giving up your precious commodity of time here for this platform. And 213 of these now. Every time I write down these numbers, it just blows my mind. I appreciate every one of you. Love you all. I hope that you have an amazing week. Look forward to seeing your beautiful faces back here next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. And until then, go out and have a wonderful, amazing life. Bring along as many amazing people as possible. Love you guys. Oh, and love you, Mom.